What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or does it fester like a sore and run? That question was asked by Langston Hughes in the middle of the Harlem Renaissance in the 1920s. It would be more than 30 years before a fateful day that we are celebrating now, that was 67 years ago today, when a unanimous decision of the United States Supreme Court was read from the bench by Chief Justice Earl Warren. And that day only came 67 years ago because of some urgent, insistent, important work done right here. So to David Wilkes and the board, to our governor and congresswoman, senior senator, county executive, everybody who's gathered and helped make this happen, thank you. And to Sonny and your classmates, thank you. Thank you and God bless you for being present with us and helping bring us into a moment together where we look at our history and the dreams deferred for decades and decades. The dreams of a mom who just wanted the bus that was driving right past her house on Limestone Road, not to take her daughter to Hockessin School 29 up the hill, but to just make it easier for her to get to this school, so-called Hockessin Colored School number 107. She just wanted a little bit easier day, a little bit easier life for her daughter. And you know, at the end of the day, that's what's driven every great change in our history, is opening your heart, opening your eyes, and saying, why does it have to be this way? Oh, people said to her, don't make a fuss. Don't rock the boat. You don't need to make trouble. And she paid in no small ways. In fact, the Wilmington Morning News reported that Sarah Beulah's thriving egg-selling business at her Hockessin farm steadily shrank. As neighbors said, we don't need to do business with that troublemaker. And I'll remind you that what then Chancellor Colin Seitz did was to simply open his heart and then open his eyes, because the facts were as plain as anyone could see. So just imagine, if we can, students, on a day just like today, when a 3-car caravan arrived here from Wilmington, Delaware, and Chancellor Colin Seitz got out, Attorney Lewis Redding, the first African-American attorney in Delaware history, got out, an opposing counsel, who shall remain nameless, got out, and they were here to examine the facts. Plessy v. Ferguson, separate but equal, standard of the nation for decades and decades, and all you had to do was get out of the car and take a look. The Morning News reported that at the white school just up the hill, Chancellor Seitz noted the landscaping, the basketball court, the nurse's office, an auditorium where dancing class was going on when he arrived. And right here, just down the hill, Shirley Beulah's school. There was no dancing class. There was no auditorium. There was no nurse's office. There wasn't even indoor plumbing. As plain as the nose on your face. All it took was just a little bit of courage, an open heart, and open eyes. And a young chancellor put his career on the line and penned a simple common sense opinion that said, separate but equal does not exist in my state. The schools being provided to young people mean a dream deferred for every young black student in our state, and it must end. And then he went a step further and said, separating the races in our country by law, forcing people to go to different schools, live in different neighborhoods, go to different movie theaters, drink from different fountains, is simply reinforcing this founding sin of white supremacy. The lie that was at the very heart of so much of how this country was founded and built, and was in so much tension with those brave, inspiring words in our Constitution that Senator Carper referenced. What's it take to make change, students? A little bit of courage, an open heart, and a willingness to call the question and say, we've all been in on this lie for far too long, and to have A mom write a letter to a governor, to a chancellor, and demand justice. Ours is a mighty God, Pastor. And as folk have gathered at Chippy Chapel for decades and decades, 125 years, they've reflected on how ours is a God of righteousness and of justice. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it fester like a sore and run? We are 67 years past the day, declared now as Brown versus Board Anniversary Day by our governor, when the Supreme Court said in our legal system we will end apartheid in America. But it took decades for that to really be made real, and it took the hard work of a number of warriors in front of me here today. And that job is not done. That job is not done. I moved here to Hockessin when I was 6. I started elementary school at York Lynn, just down York Lynn Road. My best friend went to Hockessin. I was texting him as I was in a car driving over. Not driving. I went right by his house in Gateway Farms. My house was right here on Erickson Avenue. Right here, I mean, a quarter mile away. And my mom was a public school teacher. And you know what? And I went to HB for middle school. Until I went to law school and took a course from Burke Marshall. Right? When Governor George Wallace stood in the schoolhouse door and prevented integration in Tuscaloosa, Burke Marshall was the man sent down there by President Kennedy. It wasn't until I'm sitting in a classroom taught by that man where Jack Greenberg was a guest teacher, and he told me my own state's history. How embarrassing. How embarrassing to think that folks from this community, at least from my family, did not know this history. So how do we make a difference with that? Well, first, today, this declaration. Second, this commemoration in this gathering. But third, I've joined with Congressman Clyburn in a bill in the United States Congress, and Congresswoman Blunt Rochester is helping lead this in the House, where we will add this site to the Brown versus Board of Education sites, expanding the national recognition of the history of this site. No student at HB, no student at Hockessin or North Star or Yorkland, no student in this state or country should fail to learn, because that history, if not learned, will be repeated. That history, if not examined, will continue to lead to dreams deferred. And if dreams are deferred, dreams are denied. If dreams are denied, democracy is at risk. So to everybody who is part of this effort, thank you. To everybody who continues to insist on righteousness and on our keeping the promises written in the Constitution, thank you. And to those who continue to goad us, whom you elect to do better, Bibi, thank you, and God bless you.